Greetings, my fellow free stop and thinkers. L3's podcast. My name is transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Wednesday, December 30th, 2015. Yeah, it's gonna be real short. Be talking about a couple things, a few things to be exact. And this came today at the Washington Times, and this one's entitled "Agents Nab Pakistanis with Terrorist Connections to the U.S. Border." Interesting here. We'll just see what they say. And to be exact, all right, we'll continue on here. All right, so here, agents snap Pakistanis with terrorist connections crossing U.S. border. From the Washington Times, it says here, the Border Patrol nabbed two Pakistani men with ties to terrorism at the U.S.-Mexico border in September in the latest instance of illegal immigrants from so-called special interest countries using the southern border as a point of entry to the U.S. Mohammed Azim and Mukhtar Ahmad, both in their 20s, from Gujarat, were caught September 20th by agents south of San Diego and just over the international border of Tijuana when agents checked their identities through bases. They got hits on both of them. Mr. Ahmad popped up as an associate of a known or suspected terrorist, while Mr. Azim's information has been shared by a foreign government for intelligence purposes. Both men had been processed 2 months earlier by immigration officials in Panama, suggesting they took advantage of smuggling networks or other routes increasingly used by Central American illegal immigrants to sneak into the U.S. It comes as lawmakers on Capitol Hill are increasingly worried about potential terrorists gaining entry to the U.S. through its southern border or taking advantage of lax screening elsewhere in the immigration system. The southern land border remains vulnerable to intrusion and exists as a point of extreme vulnerability. Representative Duncan Hunter, California Republican, wrote a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson last week demanding answers about how many people in the U.S. in the FBI's terrorist screening database have been caught at the border. Evidently, there are criminal organizations and individuals with the networks and know-how to facilitate illegal entry into the United States without regard for one's intentions or status on a terrorist watch list, Mr. Hunter wrote. The detention of the two Pakistani nationals underscores the fact that any serious efforts to secure our homeland must include effective border security and immigration enforcement. The FBI, whose agents were brought in to interview the two men, declined to talk about the case, saying it had no information to provide. Border Patrol turned the men over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, which they have been in custody since September, are being held while they face immigration court proceedings. The other incidents have raised questions about the extent to which terrorists can take advantage of smuggling networks in Latin America. A year before the two Pakistani men were caught, the Border Patrol apprehended 4 Kurdish men who said they were part of the Revolutionary People's Liberation Front Party, which is listed by the U.S. as a terrorist organization. Mr. Johnson, the Homeland Security Secretary, said 4 were actually members of the Kurdish Workers' Party, which is also listed as a terrorist organization by the United States government. The Washington Times reported last year that the 4 men had paid $8,000 each to be smuggled from Istanbul through Paris to Mexico City. They were kept by a smuggling network before being driven to the U.S. border. Their trip highlighted the existence of smuggling networks capable of getting terrorists from the Middle East up to the U.S. border. Earlier this winter, 2 Syrian families sparked a furor when they showed up at the U.S.-Mexico border demanding asylum. Terrorist potential entry points into the U.S. have been hotly debated since the September 11, 2001 attacks, which saw many of the hijackers entered on legal visas but remain in the country after their permission has expired. The woman involved in the recent California terrorist attack was admitted on a fiancé visa. In the case of the 2 Pakistani men, they both approached a Border Patrol agent who was doing line duty at a location known as the Libertard Hump. Now let's just see what they have to say here. They're continuing to read according to this. Okay, and one moment. Boom, boom. It is clear that if they asserted an asylum claim or made some other defense, the Border Patrol agents determined the two had been screened in Panama in late July through the documents didn't say how they spent the intervening 2 months before they were apprehended at the U.S.-Mexico border. I said they had taken steps to try to combat smuggling networks, and particularly those that threaten the U.S. national security interests through its Homeland Security Investigation Unit. HSI places special priority on organizations known to transport individuals from countries with ties to terrorism. I said in a statement to the Times, our primary concern is closing the illicit pathways that may pose a threat to our national security. We may use investigative, prosecutorial, and intelligence resources to target and aggressively pursue, disrupt, and dismantle foreign-based criminal travel network, particularly those in the movement of individuals from countries of national security concern. Excuse me here. The agency didn't provide details on individuals on those terrorism-related investigations, but said overall in 2013 and 2014, the unit arrested nearly 6,000 people in connection with human smuggling. This is interesting. So you're gonna try to bring these moles in to try to stir a ruckus, and of course, you know they use this immigration for North American Union, Club of Rome, etc. So the truth of the matter is, let's secure our borders. Let's stop being an empire. Let's be a constitutional republic and honor Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. What's so bad wrong with that? But remember, you got dingleberries think they're smarter than everybody else, so you always got to look at that whole bigger picture. It's not to say do this out of fear, but be aware and vigilant, as every duties, American citizens' duties, and people who love this country need to start paying attention. Because I can talk about the New World Order, all of that on September 11th. This could be another New World Order element. Yeah, allegedly, possibly, potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So they don't want militias down there. Why? Because the government knows better than that. So this is how I see it: is stay alert, pay attention, be ready, don't live in fear. And that's all I got to say about this. Here's the next one. Interesting commentary from Dollar Vigilante. The war on cash is now being rolled out at an incredible speed. And he wrote here, it came out yesterday, it says here, in the old days there used to be bank robbers. Old westerns were full of the stories. Now the banks rob you. It's part of the grand scheme to turn the entire world into indentured servants under total control. Here is where the world is headed. Countries like India are already building corporately sponsored cities, municipal environments where people live in the same place they work. How lovely is that? Your workplace provides you social activities, sponsors your apartments, and transportation generally surrounds you like a kind of corporate amniotic fluid. Until you lose the job anyway, then everything is turned off. Your wife divorces you, bereft of marriage, home, and job. You will likely leave the place where you intended to grow. Maybe you will die of exposure of untreated disease, as no doubt you will have lost your medical care as well. Sounds like THX 1138. This is the future that our corporate masters have planned for us, and as part of the total control, they intend to migrate from paper money to the cashless society. The brave new digital world. Already, we are subjected to a barrage of articles in a major media about the upcoming brave new digital world. India and the developing world in general is well down this path, as the developing world is always subject to these schemes before they are rolled out in the West. In Africa and Kenya, especially, people pay many bills via digital phone. In the West, Scandinavian countries have often proven the point of entry for utopian schemes, and so is in this case. In Sweden and Denmark, especially, events are racing ahead. Denmark clashes to be cashless by 2030, and the citizens, according to reports, are said to be ecstatic. Sweden is another funny little country that has big plans from a cashless perspective. Many bank branches won't even accept cash, like phone booths. Many ATM machines have been carted away. Be told cash is only 2% of the Swedish economy currently. In Denmark, only 25% of the citizens use much cash, down from 80% 20 years ago. Wow, talk about brainwashing here, huh? It is not just Sweden and Denmark. Brussels itself is relentlessly pressuring citizens not to use cash. In Spain, you can't make cash purchases over 2,500 euros. In France and Italy, that figure is down to 1,000. This is the great for banks, of course. Banks, of course. Think of all the fees they can charge. Governments like it because cash societies are transparent societies. If you pay everything digitally, your entire life is mapped out, purchase by purchase, paycheck by paycheck. That's a great boon to tax collectors. Is there another reason as well? Keynesian-style economies don't work very well. Keynesian central banks eventually get into trouble because they constantly have to stimulate, print large amounts of money to make for the essential failures of Keynesian economics to create viable societies. We are well into the maturity of the Keynesian economics, and central banks more and more must consider challenging the zero bound, i.e., charging negative interest rates that will demand that you, the customer, must pay the bank for the privilege of storing your non-existent money there. This plan has many benefits for the bank, and few, if any, for you. Naturally, you might wish to store your wealth in cash because at least you wouldn't be paying interest on your savings. And that means that cash is the opponent of a negative interest rate society. If banks and policymakers want ability to move up and down the interest rate scales easily and quickly, they must ban the chief opponent of such a scheme, coins and notes. Yes, folks, that is at least partially what's driving this move to the cashless society. It's the best of all scenarios for government officials and bankers. Your entire life is exposed, blip by blip. No more fudging on taxes or late payments. The U.S. has even just passed into law that if you owe taxes, your passport will be rescinded. You won't be able to get out at that point. That's the dream anyway. In reality, like so many other government schemes, it won't quite work out as planned. It is not possible to legislate away competition. One can try, of course, but if people see they have no option but to deposit funds in banks that will penalize them every month, those same savers will find alternative methods of saving as little as possible, at least formally, which will only worsen the economy and hasten the upcoming Greater Depression. In other words, while government will impose its cashless schemes by force, people will do what they have always done: create gray and black markets, aka free markets, that provide the choice governments deprive them of. It's like the EU itself. Today, many in Europe have buyer's regrets, and in places like Sweden, the current crop of politicians may rejoice over a non-cash utopian future. But many soon change radically. In Sweden, as in Germany, France, and many other countries, a political backlash is brewing, characterized by right-wing anti-immigration parties. While the immigration is currently the big issue, the likelihood is that this political movement will set itself in opposition to too many other EU-oriented programs. Trends do not grow to the sky, and something so fabulous as a cashless society is bound to create considerable opposition sooner or later. It is indeed possible to impose various socio-economic paradigms by force, but a solemn, coerced population is not one that is apt to be cooperative. Certainly, we can see that in Greece, where the EU and its Greek proxy government still struggle to impose austerity and to collect taxes. The war on cash is a war on freedom. The real trouble with all these fantastical plans is that those behind them are determined to implement them and likely will do so. They, that they won't work or not well is obvious a secondary consideration. There will be blood. It was the title of a well-received movie and is certainly a forecast of what is going to happen as these deeply malevolent technocratic procedures are put into action. TDV, of course, will continue to track these trends and it has in the past. Our newsletter, which should provide, subscribe to here, which is a link for that, will provide solutions that can help you position yourself and your family so that you're not taken by surprise by the gathering tide of authoritarian internationalism. There is no reason for you to fear what's upcoming. So as long as you take time to understand it and to plan for a personal alternatives, history and economics show us that a Drigazine eventually implodes. It is not possible to run societies without price competition, and gradually those societies that try to do so descend into chaos. Already the market is creating innovative solutions to bypass banking system. A little thing called Bitcoin, which was the best performing currency in 2015 by a wide margin. Many people don't understand it and fear a cashless society. They should, for the reason given above, think Bitcoin plays into the cashless society. It doesn't. Bitcoin is cash, but even better. It is cash that you can store in your own brain by remembering your password, and if careful, no one would even know you're holding it. This will be a major topic of conversation at our upcoming crucial TDV Internationalization and Investment Summit on February 18th. Amongst the many topics, experts in the Bitcoin space will be on hand to tell you why Bitcoin, along with precious metals, of course, is so important that give you the information you need to purchase and securely store Bitcoin. We see what's coming and we are planning well ahead for it. It is a race between total control, centralization, and total freedom, decentralization. Believe me when I tell you, you will much prefer living in the world of the latter. For previews of what the former looks, just read George Orwell's 1984. His timing was off by a few decades, but his prognosis was so accurate that it will look more like a training manual than a fiction novel today. You won't hear about this nor be advised on how you can protect yourself from this war on CNBC, CNN, or even other financial newsletters. Stick with us and the TDV newsletter and the upcoming TDV summit to stay on step ahead of the game. And it is very happy. I'm very happy actions are taking place, and people should take the initiative on implementing these to your families, your friends, loved ones, etc. Because even myself, I'm doing things. I'm investing in precious metals. And I told members of our family to do the same thing because you never know. And of course, the Bitcoin thing was a little bit controversial. Now that it went up, it skyrocketed. So, but people could take the initiative on doing that because it's being decentralized. The World Bank and the IMF don't give a damn about you. Okay? It has nothing to do with capitalism or anything like that. It's totally irrelevant. Get that out of your mind because it's just a distraction. This is more of a technocratic tyranny to control every one of us like numbers, a digital plantation. Okay, they all want us in there like cattle. Doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your national background, gender, heritage, etc. Everyone needs to prepare themselves with this. If we can, it may not be perfect, but you have a cushion instead of hitting the black hole and see how far you go into that. It may go to Never Never Land and hit a brick wall where you be rest in peace. So everyone out there, you got to pay attention. Stay focused. Do this for your families, your friends, loved ones. Stick together. The more we know about this, the more people get involved, the better we can be. Won't be perfect, but it won't be total chaotic. So next one here, finally, came from the Miami New Times, came out yesterday. It's entitled Miami Activist Sues TSA Over Mandatory Nude Body Scams. This is awesome. And an illustration in Colbert's lawsuit show the nude shots created by TSA body scanners. Yes, he has some videos on here as well, so I recommend everyone check that out. Call it a holiday news dump. Earlier this month, the Transportation Security Administration quietly released a new policy regarding its airport security checks. The days when travelers can request a pat-down instead of enduring nude imaging scanner are coming to an end. Instead, TSA can now decline that request and make the scanner mandatory for any passenger. I just tell them to stick it up their ass, as far as I'm concerned, and excuse my language. That didn't sit well with Jonathan Corbett, a frequent flying app developer, law student, and Miami resident. Corbett is also the TSA's most persistent legal tormentor. Now he's filed a lawsuit challenging the mandatory scan policy. Corbett argues that millions of travelers opt out of machines for the religious and personal reasons or because of disabilities that make walking through the machine impossible. He also says TSA failed to follow up on a public comment period that found the agency flooded with thousands of angry complaints. The TSA has been granted extreme latitude by courts across the country, and yet it fails to follow the few rules that have been set for it, Colbert writes in his complaint. Colbert has already spent the better part of the 6 years battling the TSA. In 2010, as his works developed, mobile apps took him on thousands of miles of air travel. He was enraged by the TSA's move to install body scanners at hundreds of airports. He argued the machines were ineffective and invasive. He even uploaded a viral YouTube video showing him smuggling metal objects through machines at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport, and there's a link for that, so please, folks, check this out. So he began fighting the TSA in court. He filed suits over both the body scanners and the agency's pat-down searches. This March, he filed a third suit over a secret policy allowing domestic airlines to interrogate international passengers before they return to the United States. And his latest battle comes over a policy change released by the TSA December 18th. The new policy says that while passengers may generally decline the AIT screening in favor of the physical screening, the TSA made direct mandatory AIT screening for some passengers. Corbett, who recently enrolled in law school in New York, writes that he flew 150,000 miles last year. He estimates as many as 14 million travelers every year opt out of body scans, and he argues that people will be violated by a policy forcing them into the machines. This requirement is particularly odious because passengers do not retain the right to discontinue screening and leave the checkpoint without flying, he writes. Homeland Security spokesperson cannot respond to New Times request for comment about Colbert's complaint. You know why? Because Mr. Colbert is correct. I've been following this man for a good period of time, and I did some of my past podcasts talking about what he has done. He's been on many TV news stations, alternative news stations. It doesn't matter whether it's Alex Jones or James Corbett. The list goes on and on. But definitely, all you folks out there need to support this person. In addition, you should send this to your local commissioners. Remember, many of these airports are municipal and county property. Municipality property is public property. So you should send that to them as well. But this really has to be not efficient, but why everyone's space should be violated. Because even under the Johns Hopkins University and Columbia University research, that these body scanners, even from rapid scan, is very unhealthy, or other words, unsafe. People are getting radiation, and the folks who are working around them, the TSA agents themselves, are not wearing any lead vests whatsoever. So this is totally unacceptable. And I know Ron Paul talked about this a while back as well. And the whole thing is, what are they trying to do? What's the TSA's job or the federal government's job? Take over the airline industry, get rid of the market they have left with these other companies, and they can run it themselves. And I say to hell with them, and the TSA should be treated like they are criminals, especially mainly, not all rank and file, but mainly the higher-ups start calling out these bastards, including Jay Johnson from Homeland Security, Barack Obama's buddy, which doesn't matter what party they're in, but he's just another stooge that's like, okay, boss. So the whole thing is support this man, spread this information out. You can even use my show, download it, and share it throughout your social media networks. That would be just as essential. And that is it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this show. Plus, please feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, love letters, hate letters, no bomb threats or anything like that, okay? Or you got information that I haven't checked out yet, which may be pretty interesting. However, please use your comments with decorum. It'd be greatly appreciated. An open discussion, honorable discussion is beautiful. All right, and I've been getting that my YouTube account. I think it's awesome. So I thank for folks for putting that in there. That's all I gotta say is you can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Twitter. Oh, I say Twitter, right? Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, World Truth, YouTube, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at lokiluck3@gmail.com. All right, well, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Before I go, I'd like to wish everyone out there a safe happy New Year. Please don't do anything crazy, it's stupid, and just be positive. Plant those seeds of freedom. Doesn't matter where you at. You gotta make this happen. Because one thing I know for sure, 2016 is the transformation year, including the Chinese, according to the Chinese astrologer. I believe that will happen late January. I have to find that out. Late January. That will be the transformation year. And one thing I gotta say too, even though a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of negative, but there's some positive aspects going on as well. It's a big, humongous spiritual warfare and metaphoric warfare that's happening right in our backyard, right in our faces. And I'm just excited, optimistic in certain ways, but preparing for a rough ride as well. I got some new friends. I've been just chatting with folks everywhere. Maybe some people are interested, want to get together with me on other areas, and let's see if it works out. But I still love them as my friends. So I am excited. I have to admit it. So just keep plugging away, and of course, to all those folks, like I said, I remember the one on Lemmy. His soul will remain forever free. Plus Mr. Bradbury too, and Mr. King from Funkadelic. And what's the other gentleman's name? Meadowlark Lemon. Metal, yeah, Meadowlark Lemon. Yeah, so it'll be forever free as well. And as always, too, man. Like I said, live once. We all have purposes. Live it with the fullest, with honor, dignity, love, and in good faith. Hatred as a whole, holding these grudges, will get people and yourself gray really quick. So, thanks for everyone for listening once again. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.